Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Nash County Board of Commissioners meeting for April the 1st, 2024. Hope everyone had a lovely Easter weekend, and it is customary for our board to begin each one of our meetings with a prayer by a sitting commissioner and also a pledge of allegiance to the flag. During the prayer that we have, you're welcome to stand and join us. You're welcome to use this time for your own prayer, or you're welcome to use it for a moment of silence, or whatever you have on your heart this morning. And after the prayer, I'll call on Commissioner Wayne Outlaw to do the pledge of allegiance to the flag. And at this time, I'd call on Commissioner Gwen Wilkins for the invocation.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of life, for the opportunity to start afresh, and for the blessings you bestow upon us each day. We ask for strength, strengthen our bodies and minds to withstand demands of this week, this month, this year. When we feel weary, remind us that your grace is sufficient and your power is made perfect in weakness. All this we ask in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. We are now on item number 4 of our agenda, which is approval of the minutes for the month of March 2024. We did have one meeting on March the 4th, and I'd entertain a motion for any corrections, any additions, or if we're happy, approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion from Commissioner Belfield to approve the minutes as written. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 5 is a item called public comment, under statutes that our board, the first meeting of every month, will have a time for anyone in the public to speak to the board about anything you have on your mind. That's not otherwise on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, we would appreciate if you wait till that comes up on the agenda, which would be public hearings or anything else that you see noted. There is a sign-up period out front to sign up to speak to the under public comment that is open until the meeting starts. But our board is pretty lenient with that, and if you happen to miss that part and you're here to speak to the board, you're welcome to come up after I call on the ones that did sign up. But this morning we had 2 people to sign up, and I'll go in the order that the sign up took place. First person I'll call on is Dr. Kim Koo. If you would come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record, Board of Commissioners will be glad to hear from you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Koo. I live in 220 South Englewood Drive on Nash County side of Rocky Mount. I had just received the revaluation of my property from the Nash County Revaluation Office. It raised my property value by 77.6%. In real numbers, it went from $246,950 to a whopping $438,720. At a tax rate of 67 cents to $100 in Nash County, my new property tax will be $2,939.42. At the Rocky Mount tax rate of 65.8 cents to $100, my new taxes for Rocky Mount will be $3,005.23. The new grand total in taxes will be $5,944.65, almost $6,000 a year. This does not include the home insurance that had increased because of the new value of my house. What about the increased utility rates and the increased cost of living in this area? My home encompasses 3,100 square feet. It has 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. It has a detached garage and a 2-car carport. The house was built in 1998. Except for recently replacing 2 HVAC units and a hot water boiler, I had not added any other external improvements within the last 10 years. I have lived in this house for 15 years. In my appeal to the revaluation board, I enclose a copy of a comparable market analysis of many homes that have the equivalent characteristics to my home, their value and how much they were sold for. I'm retired from active earning since 2016. I live on a fixed income, yet senior citizens like me are facing rising taxation and increased cost of living. We are crushed by increased taxation while many of the super rich get away with little or no taxes or deferred interest taxes. By this revaluation, Nash County is scheduled to receive a 40% increase in tax revenues while exacerbating the terrible housing crisis in this area. Prices for single-family homes, rents, and costs for renovations are all going to skyrocket. Homelessness will mushroom, and much more. And more working folks will be weighed down by rising debts. Everyone living in Rocky Mount pays 4 taxes: the city, the county, the state, and the federal. How much more taxes do you think we can endure? My questions are, number 1, how did you arrive at your numbers, and what are the supporting factors for arriving at these numbers? And number 2, are there any other mitigating ways that seniors living on fixed income can use to ease their tax burdens that the county can advise us on? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Coop. Next person I have that signed up is Nancy Taylor. Good morning, Nancy.
Thank you, Chairman Davis and Commissioners, for the opportunity to speak to you this morning in regards to the revaluation notices recently received by all Nash County residents and other concerns. I'm a resident of Whitakers, where our citizens pay the highest water sewer bills in the county as we purchase our water from Rocky Mount. The county water line is proposed to stop in Gold Rock, which is 7 miles from Whitakers. Our municipal taxes are some of the highest in the county, only behind Sharpsburg. Our population continues to decline. In 2012, our population was at 737, and it decreased in 2022 to 632. Extreme water bills, lack of amenities, high municipal taxes, lack of affordable housing will continue to drive our population down. Now we're faced with the other huge deterrent for growth in the 27891 area code, the high reevaluation rates being placed on our citizens. I've done some comparisons in our town limits. Out of 43 properties surveyed, the average rate increase percentage was 58.5%. In the only subdivision in Whitakers, Taylor Estates, out of the 14 homes there, the average increase equals 21.85. I'm wondering why those newer homes in Taylor Estates were valued, I'm wondering why those newer homes in Taylor Estates did not go up as much as the ones that were built in 1910. I'm certain there's a formula that I'm not aware of, but would be willing to know how the reevaluations were decided. I can say there's a house on Highway 301, a brick home that is completely burned out on the inside. The home is collapsing, but the house value went up from $36,000 to over $60,000, a 60% increase. Does the assessor look at all the properties, visually go to each location? If so, how could this property have an increase in value? The list goes on as homes that are near demolition state or are over 100 years old increased in value significantly, yet the newer homes only increase marginally. Is this called regressive assessment taxation? Please help me understand. Our area will not prosper without the help of both counties, Nash and Edgecombe, as we're a divided town. Water supply from each county would certainly be a plus to bring industry to our area, as all other areas south and west of Whitakers are growing. but Whitaker seems to be the only municipality in Nash County that is declining. We need your help. I urge you to please look at some of these revaluation notices for Whitakers and see if you can make heads or tails of them. The lowest percentage increase of the ones I surveyed is 12%, but I have many that are over 100% and everywhere in between, all the way up to 225%. How can citizens afford to pay taxes on such a huge tax reevaluation? I thank you for your time, but I ask you to please help the second oldest municipality in Nash County to change the narrative of our once bustling town. Our citizens deserve the same amenities that are offered to other areas of Nash County, and we have been underserved for many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak this morning that didn't realize you needed to sign up? We would welcome you to come down and state your name and address for the record. Not seeing any movement, I will close out item number 5, which is public comment.
Mr. Chairman, before we move,
Yes, sir, Mr. Belfield.
this is an issue that I'm not saying we're not going to discuss it here, but this is an issue that we need to deal with. Tax reval.
Yes, sir.
I got a lot of people. I couldn't even go to the restaurant and eat where people weren't coming up to me complaining about the reval. The notice tell them that they can appeal it, come up and appeal it, but it's something that needs to be addressed, but not now.
Understand, sir. If I could take just a moment, what I would like to do, I ask that it be prepared a video we did previously on reval, and I'm going to ask that it be played at this time for the citizens in the audience to see, and the citizens that look at our meetings online. And then, Mr. Belfield, I'll say a few words and we'll move on if that's okay. But if we could pull that video up at this time. Reval is very complicated. It has numerous moving parts, and I appreciate the citizens that came this morning. I like Mr. Belfield. I'm sure each one of us have heard from many, many people, and believe me, this board is going to work with our citizens as we go through the appeal process, and then we'll be working with our citizens as we set a new tax rate. So there are two parts that affect what you pay on taxes, but Mr. Edwards, if you could play that video at this time, I'd appreciate it.
What is property revaluation? Property revaluation, also known as reassessment, is the process of updating the assessed value of properties within a jurisdiction for the purpose of determining property taxes. The state of North Carolina mandates that all 100 counties must perform a revaluation at least every 8 years. Some counties choose to reassess values more frequently, but Nash County's revaluation is usually on an 8-year cycle. So why is Nash County reassessing values early? You have probably noticed that homes and property prices have reached historic levels since Nash County's last revaluation in 2017. Values have increased so much that the state of North Carolina requires Nash County to reassess property values a year earlier than expected. Many counties around us are also going through the revaluation process. This action was triggered by a formula called the Sales Assessment Ratio. Every year, the state randomly selects properties that were sold in the county during a select time frame. If the county's assessed value of the properties is lower than 85% of the sale of the properties, a revaluation is triggered. After our 2017 revaluation, North Carolina's sales assessment ratio of selected Nash County properties was 98.42% of market value. Since that time, our sales assessment ratio has fallen to 62.41%, triggering a property revaluation. How does Nash County reassess property values? Nash County hired Piner Appraisal to perform this year's revaluation. Assessors from Piner review various factors that can influence property values, such as the size and age of your property, changes in the real estate market, and property improvements and deterioration. They use this information to reassess the value of each property to ensure that it reflects its current market worth. In early March, property owners will receive a notification of their updated property assessment, along with information on how to appeal if they believe there are errors in the assessment. Nash County then uses the updated assessments to calculate property taxes, an important revenue source for funding essential public services and infrastructure projects. An appeal process is included in the notification you receive by mail, which can also be found on Nash County's website at www.nashcountync.gov. The process includes formal and informal appeal opportunities. Will property taxes increase due to the revaluation? The purpose of tax revaluation is not to create more revenue, but to provide an accurate and equitable assessment of values countywide. Nash County may choose to remain at the tax rate of 67 cents per $100 valuation or change to a new rate. 7 years ago, during the last revaluation, Nash County held the tax rate at 67 cents when property values decreased. During the 2009 revaluation, the county lowered the tax rate from 70 cents to 67 cents. The tax rate decision will be made later, during this year's budget process, and is expected to be adopted by the Board of Commissioners no later than June 30th, 2024. Once approved, the new tax rate will be used to calculate 2024 property tax bills expected to be issued to all Nash County property owners in the fall of 2024. If you have any questions about Nash County property revaluation, please contact our tax office at 252-462-2778 from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays.
Thank you for bearing with us to review that one more time, and I hope some citizens watching us from home also saw that video again. And not to dwell on the point, but you do have a deadline of April the 15th to file those appeals. Make sure you don't miss that deadline if you wish to file one. And as stated there, you can do an informal appeal, which just means you call up that number, you make an appointment to come in and talk to one of the consultants that we have that put this together for us. And I have heard from quite a few people that have gone through that process. One in particular called me late yesterday afternoon. I do know the lady called me last Wednesday, was a former neighbor of mine when I lived in Rocky Mount, very upset with her new vow numbers, and I told her what to do to call. She went up maybe on Thursday, I believe she said, and went through what she felt like her position was, showed some comps. You need to go in prepared, as many of you would do, I'm sure. But I actually got a call, I think hers had gone up like 122%. And I got a call from her late yesterday afternoon. Evidently, she checked the mailbox and already had a new number in the mailbox where they had listened to her and reduced it down to, I believe she said it was like a 61% increase, and she was happy with that. But actually, our reval, if you noted in there, and again, it's a complicated formula that you have to work through, but in 7 years ago, when we went through this, we had no increase at all in assessed value. We actually had a little bit of a loss. And so the way I look at it, we really are looking at a 15-year reval number from where we were 15 years ago to where we are now. So fortunately, with the real estate market like it is, and I do know it's a blessing to people to have a home that's worth more than what it was worth, but then it's a curse when your tax goes up. But we've got to work through our budget this year, and of course, when I pointed this out to a citizen, they quickly told me, but when y'all set the tax rate, the appeal process is already happened, and I certainly understand that. That's why I don't think you need to wait till we set the tax rate. If you're not satisfied with your value, please work through the appeal process and get it taken care of. But I'll move on from that, and of course, if you have any questions at all about revals, contact our tax office. If you're not satisfied with that, you're welcome to call our administrative office, and of course, each one of us serve a district, and I know each board member will be glad to hear from you. Thank you for your time on that. The next item on our agenda is item number 6, and it is Department of Health and Human Services update, and I will call on our manager, Stacy Satzler to present this update for us with some people that she may have with her this morning. Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, good morning. I have the pleasure to introduce our guests to you this morning. As you know, we received notification the end of last week from Secretary Cody Kinsley that North Carolina Department of Social Services was ready to exit Nash County and turn the control of our child welfare unit back over to Nash County's control. So I'm very pleased with this news. We've made a lot of progress. I'd like to thank this board for all of your support through the last 6.5 months and all of the requests that have come before you to ask for the things that were needed, the resources that were needed to put into place to see this day come. And also say thank you to the North Carolina Division of the Department of Social Services for their support and all of the resources that they have provided to Nash County. And I'd also like to say thank you to our employees and all of their hard work and dedication. So at this time, I'd like to introduce to you Lisa Cawley, who is the Senior Director of Human Services, and Susan Osborne, the Deputy Secretary of Opportunity and Wellbeing. And I also know that we have Katie Swanson in the office. Katie's been a very familiar face on our staff here in Nash County. And then, of course, we've got our new DSS Director, Danita DeVega, and also our Human Services Director, Mr. Bill Hill, in the audience today. But ladies, if you would, please. You can come around the front here. Sorry about that. And watch your step there. Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. Good morning.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So as all of you, and I know many of you, met you, as I've been here in Nash County some, as you are all familiar with, the summer and the fall of 2023 was a difficult time for child welfare here in Nash County. In September, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services did have to make the decision to assume direct control of your child welfare services. This is not a decision we make lightly at Department of Health and Human Services, and it is only when we believe that children are not safe. That decision led to many conversations and questions, many with the leadership of Nash County about why and how did we get here. I remember a comment early on from your county manager who said, you know, we're here, we will work hard and we will be the best at stabilizing and improving our child welfare that the state has ever seen, and we will ensure that Nash County children are safe. So the work here in Nash County over the last 7 months has included new protocols and procedures in many areas, new court process and court preparation, creation of an after-hours team and a supervisory structure for that, and focused training for your current staff and the new staff that have joined. Together, Nash County DSS and NCDHHS has strengthened child welfare services, ensuring safety and well-being for all of Nash County's children. The Secretary wanted to be with us today to tell you all how appreciative and how proud, but he is traveling to California this week. But last Thursday, he did return child welfare back to Nash County and to your new director, Director DeVega, per North Carolina General Statute 1087-C. I want to tell you why we made that decision. We made that decision first and foremost because children are safer here in Nash County. This was the goal of our work together from the beginning. The department's grateful for Nash County leadership and the dedicated staff of Nash County DSS who did this vital work. This progress was made possible by a strong partnership between the staff at DSS, the leadership of Nash County, specifically led by your county manager and your Consolidated Health and Human Services Director, along with the staff at DHHS, Lisa Colley and Katie Swanson. Major changes have taken place in Nash County Child Welfare, and I'm going to invite my colleague, Lisa Colley, to share with you a summary of these changes.
Thank you. And so I'm going to go into some of the details of what really made this work. And first, I want to start with the board. You were invested and supportive of us as a staff and your county staff from day one, and we so appreciate that. And you followed and acted on recommendations. And so much of why we are here is because of you. The other is quick action by the county manager to hire a new DSS director that has child welfare experience, specifically child protective services experience, and the partnership that happened between Ms. Swanson and Director DeVega in hiring other key CPS, child protective services positions. You also have a dedicated staff with a positive attitude who wanted to learn and develop. And this started from day one when the county manager really set the tone with staff and asked them to stretch and grow. There was training and coaching of staff to follow law, rule, and policy, and to allow for good decisions to be made as information is gathered and so that children can stay safe. The staff built processes to support good decision-making, appropriate supervision, and thorough assessments of child safety and follow-through. Additionally, taking legal action when necessary to keep children safe and building internal legal processes to ensure that social workers are prepared for court. Also, a special thank you to law enforcement in your county, to Sheriff Stone, who's here today, and Rocky Mount Police Chief Robert Haswell, and those partnerships that were built, and those meetings that are regular and continue to talk between DSS and law enforcement to protect children. And also just the hiring of new supervisors and leadership in child welfare who have experience, and they have experience in all of the above. Today, we really are proud to say that Nash County has accomplished these things faster than other counties in similar situations. You have a strong foundation, dedicated staff, and an ambitious plan to continue what has changed while we have been on site and to ensure the lives of children and families as they serve are safe and receive quality services. So thank you for all your hard work.
And just to close, so DHHS is impressed with your accomplishments, and yes, County Manager Schatzer, your team and Nash County excelled in completing this work. There's a strong plan in place that's been created with your new director and our staff to ensure that this work continues. We'll be on site weekly. We're available for consultation and guidance on rule, law, and policy. We won't be on site weekly forever, but we'll begin to taper that off. But we also want to make sure that you have what you need. We'll review records and make sure things are staying on track. Nash County has presented a plan, and we have no doubt that the foundation and the commitment to sustaining the work of the last 7 months will be here going forward. Again, we'd like to express our gratitude to the leadership for the commitment and the resources you made available to Nash County DSS child welfare staff, the ones who stayed on throughout this vital work, and the ones you've hired since then, and to the new director for stepping up to lead this new chapter in Nash County DSS. Thank you.
Ladies, if I could, I'd like to make a few comments while you're at the podium. It is a good day for Nash County, and I prepared a few notes. I'd just like to read them if I could, so I won't miss anything. But I'd just like to make a few comments on behalf of the board, really. And board members, when I finish, you're welcome to say anything that you'd like to say also. But we want to thank you for the partnership that we have had. I have known that from the beginning, your staff and our staff made it a priority to work together to be successful and I think that is exactly what we have accomplished here. Nash County appreciates the resources, the staff, the human capital that has been provided to us from the state of North Carolina. We appreciate the work, supervision, coaching, training, and development for our staff. We are thankful for ensuring our staff understands and follows policy moving forward, rules and laws around child safety, and making safety decisions that protect all the children in Nash County. We know and feel confident that moving forward, Nash County is positioned to be successful because of the work of you ladies. We feel stronger. We believe 100% in our staff and appreciate their dedication and loyalty to Nash County. I have had a chance to meet with Mr. Vega and hear her express her confidence in Nash County's future, and I think with her leadership, the support of our Human Services Director and our County Manager, we will all be successful moving forward. I would just like to say in closing, we acknowledge that no county wants to be in the position Nash County found itself in back in September. But we embrace the state's presence and know that we will be so much better for our citizens because of it. For that, we say thank you to the Secretary Kinsey, to you ladies here today, and your very dedicated staff that work with us through this. And most important, say thank you to all our existing employees in the Department of Social Services and the work that they have done. And if we could, Board, I'd like to give the state a round of applause, even though this is not a positive thing, but I think it's a positive thing that we have come from where we were to where we are this morning. And if any other board member wish to say anything, I'd open the floor up for that. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say thank you for that. That was I couldn't have said it better myself. Ms. Osborne and I had some dialogue last year. I'm glad Nash County has gotten to this point, and I look forward to us moving on. Thank you to the county manager and the staff that helped make it possible, and it was unfortunate, but I'm just so happy that we are at that point, and Nash County's moving on, and I hope the citizens realize we have your best interests at heart, and particularly the children and the adults that are most vulnerable here in Nash County. So thank you, and I hate to say goodbye.
Mr. Belfield?
Oh, I just want to say that I really appreciate you coming in and working with our Department of Social Service. And I didn't see any hard feelings or anything, that you worked well with the staff. You hit the issues that I felt like need to be addressed, and I'm pleased about that. And now I believe we have a staff there now that can move forward, and we'll be proud of it. And thank you for your service here.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to express my gratitude for all the work that you all have put in to help make children safer here in Nash County and to make our department and our employees more effective. And we're very, very appreciative.
Commissioner Darity?
Yes. Well, good morning, and thank you, Ms. Carly and Ms. Osborne. Well, the citizens have heard from you and your department, the state. So we have put our trust in your words today, and the board, we have put our trust in your work and your words, and hopefully the citizens in Nash County will feel that their children will be safe as we go forward. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Well, thank you all again.
Thank you.
All right, that was item number 6, and we'll move on to item number 7, which is the Trillium Health Resource Annual Report, and I'll call on Mr. Dave Peterson at this time. Lots happened in the last year. As you well know, sir.
Good morning.
Good
Yes,
morning.
there has been a lot happening. Thank you all for having me today. I just first want to start with recognizing a couple folks in the very back. We're back pew folks at Trillium. So Anthony Ward, he's a VP at Trillium. Victoria Jackson, raise your hand, and Terrell Alston. Victoria's a VP and Terrell's a director. They're out here just watching how I do things, because I've been in front of you all for about 10 years now.
I will tell them you get better each year, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. I first want to start by thanking Commissioner Cohn, being on our Regional Advisory Board, always on the side of trying to make sure we're doing a good job at Trillium. And also, we're really excited to have Tia now joining our Regional Advisory Board also. And so I know she's not here today, but she's, after the second meeting, she stopped me and asked many questions and said, can you get me this information and that information? So very invested in that. So it's great to have her. So let me, all right. So as every year, I give you all a number of the total number of people that we serve. And not that you keep track of the exact number, but as I started telling you all in 2018 that the state was moving towards getting individuals with low to moderate risk on Medicaid into private insurance companies. Well, and then our number would go down. So this number of 43,571 has gone down from last year. The total number of folks with mental health is about 32,000, 33,000. Substance use, about 12,000. And intellectual and developmental disabilities of about 7,500. So the total amount that was spent on services last fiscal year was over $650 million. I got to get this thing right. I'm going backwards. Okay. So when I started in 2018 telling you all about this, it's been delayed time and time again to make sure the entire state is ready to serve the physical side of the house. We are the experts on the mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance use, but we're also going to be managing the person's physical health. And so it's been delayed, and the other big change that I think Commissioner Davis was hitting on is this consolidation, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But in legislation, we had 6 managed care organizations, and the legislation said we could go down to 5 or 4 LME MCOs, okay? Then they also increased in there that you had to serve a total population of, or cover a total population of 1.5 million. 15 years ago, it was 500,000. Then they raised it to 1.2. It keeps on getting raised up for us to consolidate. I've been doing this a long time. There used to be 41 of us in the state. There's now 4. Okay? The secretary has the final decision of us going live on July 1 to serve the whole person. And what I mean by that is we're not only going to be serving the very, very high-risk individuals for their mental health, but we're also going to be serving the very, very high-risk individuals with mental health and their physical health needs. Okay? If they have COPD or diabetes or anything like that, we now have to do that type of management. Last year in my presentation to you, I mentioned that we now have to contract with every single one of your pharmacies and every single one of your primary care offices that serves Medicaid. That's a lot of contracts. It's a lot of contracts. So we have been doing that lift for the past year. So we were allowed to go live or we're supposed to be going live on July 1. The other directive that came down from the secretary, and this is what you were kind of asking about, was this consolidation. So, like I said, we were 28 counties, okay? In this consolidation by legislation to get us down to 5 or 4, the secretary decided to get us down to 4. Therefore, in some ways, we were on the fortunate end to have additional 18 counties join Trillium as the surviving entity. So East Point and Sand Hills were consolidated with Trillium, and you'll see the dates on there. In November, the directive was issued. Consolidation plans were due up to the state on the 17th of November, and then the agreement was approved on 12/15, and then the consolidation agreement was approved by the secretary on 12/18. And think about this a little bit. On the 1st of January, all the East Point and Trillium staff were all offered jobs at Trillium. Total size of Nash County employees, all right? Well, we were about 550 to 600 employees at Trillium. On January 1, 900 employees came over to Trillium. All right, 900 employees. Along with that, that was when the employees came over, and then the members and the providers came over on February 1. We had 1,200 provider agencies join us. So if you think about having contracts with 1,200 new agencies put into our system in 45 days, it's a huge lift. And you hear all the time working nights and weekends. That's exactly what was happening for those 45 days. So all employees over by January 1, all providers and members moved over by February 1. That was one of the largest shifts I've ever seen in this system, and I've been doing this over 40 years. So what we, as you do know, Trillium has had historically 3 regions, and I've been over the central region for years. So we now have 46 counties, and the total population is 3.1 million. We have 51,000 in the tailored plan, 163,000 members in Medicaid Direct, and 287,000 of uninsured individuals. This is the map of the 5 regions. You'll see on that map, so Victoria is in that south central region. She's the regional VP coming over from East Point. Anthony is the VP of the mid-state region, and that's Greensboro all the way down to Anson. I'm staying right where I'm at, covering Nash County, having from Nash all the way out to Dare County. But you'll see how we really wanted to make sure through this map we're staying local. That's the biggest point to take away from this. We are staying local. Okay? So we have those 5 regions right now. I mentioned just briefly the tailored plan. Okay? We're going to be continuing like we have for decades, serving the severe mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance use population, along with adding in traumatic brain injury. It's whole person care. You and I don't have 2 insurances right now. As soon as we move to a tailored plan, all of our members will be under one insurance, which is us. But right now, they're under two insurances because they get their physical health from one place and their mental health from another. So they'll be moving under whole person care. We'll be dealing with the pharmacy benefits, like I mentioned, physical health and behavioral health. The individuals, and I started talking about this, it went live in 2021 where the low to moderate risk individuals that were Medicaid were going to be served by these 5 private insurance companies: AmeriHealth, Blue Cross, United, WellCare, and Carolina Complete Health. All right, so that went live already in 2021. Therefore, those members moved out from under us over to those insurance companies. One of the biggest lifts in our largest department is care management. Like I said, they've been doing services for the 3 disability groups, but now they have to also learn the physical health side, right? So there was already a soft launch that started in December. They are going to be focusing on specialized teams, and these are some examples of those specialized teams. If you think about our jail and prison population, and the sheriff and the police chief probably know this very, very well, that there's a lot of folks with mental health in the judicial system. We are trying to get a reentry program started up, getting folks out of there to where they need to be and not necessarily behind the bars. We have a rapid access care coordination team. That means if folks are starting to head into the emergency department, we want to get them out quickly. The trauma of someone sitting in an emergency department is never good. So we want to get them out, and that's why we have that team. And then we also have the DSS foster care management system, because as you all know very well, we want to make sure that the kids are staying safe. So we, within our organization, we get an email every single day if there's one kid in any of our 46 counties that's sleeping in a DSS office. That puts some real sensitivity on our entire system to make sure folks are aware that no kid should ever sleep in a DSS office. Okay? Like I said, we're focusing on whole person health and the physical health, population health. Some of the additional projects that we've been doing a lot of substance abuse prevention in the schools. Sold Out Youth is one of them, where they're really addressing the fentanyl issues, and the Poe Center, where they're doing education for parents on warning signs of substance use or mental health. We are continuing to hand out Narcan naloxone kits. I'll be getting up with the county manager when our new supply comes in, probably in June, to say where we'd like those distributed. We are offering different types of summits that are really getting the word out on our system as a whole. Value-based purchasing. A lot of the big insurance companies are doing that, and we're going to be starting to do that as a tailored plan. And basically, it's really rewarding people to go get their physical health issues taken care of. All right? We really want to try to promote that. Like I said, we're reentry simulations. We're doing those. Actually, we're doing one tomorrow up in Halifax County. If those are where you're in the jail system. And that's an excellent, excellent way to learn what folks are going through and what shortages we have as a system, not necessarily Trillium, but as a system of how folks need to get out of jail, get back into their home, get their car, get their housing, get their job. It's an excellent reentry simulation. Family Solutions is a program that we have been starting, where we had $1 million and we were giving that out to 4 agencies, where it was a recruitment and training for foster care. Foster care is always at the forefront of what we're thinking needs to be done way upstream on how to work with kids and families. And then we have one community that's doing a lot of health fairs in the community just to get our word out. Some upcoming projects, the Chest Health it's a e-recovery app for substance use, and we're partnering with substance use providers to do that. We also have Back at Home at North Carolina, and that's some seed funding through HUD to help homeless population. And then, as you all know, I think when we started here in 2018, there was no Oxford houses. Correct. And now Nash County has 4, with another one just opening up. So you have 4 Oxford houses in Nash County. So now your specific data for Nash County, the total number of members served was 2,213. The folks with priority mental health diagnosis is 1,619. Substance use diagnosis, 553. And those with intellectual and developmental disabilities, 385. And I always say, don't try to add those numbers up because some of those individuals have a dual diagnosis. Okay? I would be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, have any questions of Mr. Peterson at this time, Mr. Belfield?
Yes, if those who are low income and also unemployed, if they had insurance, maybe through the Affordable Care Act, would that reduce the number of the population that you would serve?
Good question, Commissioner. So historically, when we used to have more money until budget cuts occurred, those that had private insurance, we would subsidize some dollars underneath that to support it. But now that we have so many folks that are completely uninsured, those are our primary folks that we offer money to or support to first. So if they have a primary insurance coverage and they're looking for other services under us, they'd have to go to their primary insurance company. Did I answer your question?
Partially.
Okay.
I'm looking at how we can reduce that dependency and put people on their own by having their own insurance, whether they're low income or unemployed. And I thought that the Affordable Care Act would help on this, but we still have a large number of people out here uninsured.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you. That is the intent to try to have folks more self-sufficient in the sense of having their job in order to have the insurance coverage for that. You're absolutely correct. So, you know, we really want to, and that's kind of going farther back in the system, but the earlier we get in front of families, the more success they're going to have. And that's why I mentioned some school stuff that we're doing, some early intervention stuff that we're doing, so that they can not get into our system later in life, right? So if we started earlier, then they will have the jobs to have their insurance, to have their own health care.
Mm-hmm. A lot of your small businesses don't participate in health insurance. And a lot of them also participate, but the employee has to pay half.
Yeah, that's tough.
But if they have a job, they can do it.
Yep. Good point.
Other questions, comments for Mr. Peterson?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I'd just like to thank Dave and Trillium for the job they do. I know it's been overwhelming. You know, you've been talking about going to the toilet plan since when, 2018?
Yes. Yep.
And then all of a sudden, here, this consolidation thing come, and how they handled it, I don't know, but they handled it, and they've been prepared, they've been ready. Every time it got delayed, it was the state of North Carolina, not them. They were sitting on go. They were ready for it, and I just appreciate what y'all doing to be in the situation you are, and I appreciate what you're doing for Nash County.
Thank you, and thank you, too.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to ask Mr. Peterson, the Oxford houses, how many do they house that are in recovery, or how many can each house house?
It does vary from 6 to 8 beds.
Okay.
Yep.
Dave, if you would give a brief explanation for those that may watch our meeting and may need that service of what an Oxford House is.
So it's a recovery place, and in Nash County, it can be for, they have male facilities and they have female facilities. They do have a facility in Greenville where there's mothers with children in those homes also, but it's a recovery home. Folks in those, it's a basically a peer-run type of facility. Most of them all have jobs out in the community, and so they're not in the home all day. But there's also support groups that those Oxford houses have in afternoons and evenings and weekends. Most of them are going to AA or NA meetings, but it's also where you have some individuals that have been in some of these for several months, and then you have a new individual coming in today that the person that's been there a while can kind of teach them the ropes of here's how to be successful in your community, and then eventually getting back out on their own instead of at the home.
Well said, thank you. I would just like to say on the reentry program, I'm very excited to hear more involvement in that. It's so important, as we know, because if that person that's reentering society after a long or a short prison term, particularly a long one, doesn't get that assistance, they just aren't able to stay out long, because it is a hard road to hoe to come back in society, particularly if you served a long sentence, and things change so quickly in this world, you're just kind of lost. So what you're doing in that, I'm so tickled to hear about that, quite frankly. And just on behalf of the board, I will say I'm so pleased that Trillium conducted themselves, run their organization like they did from the time we joined it many years ago. It was a decision that this board made. But in doing that, I think the consolidation, by having your house in order, made the consolidation work favorably in Nash County's favor, and for that we want to say thank you. Quite frankly, as you know, I was extremely worried during October, November, December of this past year, and we talked quite a bit and did everything we could to leave Trillium in place at the end of that, and it was successful. And I know it was successful because of how y'all had operated up to that point in time. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you for being here this morning.
All right, take
Again,
care.
thank you, Dave. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
On behalf of Nash County, thank you.
Appreciate that.
All right, item number 8 is a public hearing concerning the sale of Nash County property for the purpose of economic development, and I'll call on Andy Hagee at this time to make this presentation. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. As you said, this item is a public hearing for the sale of Nash County property for the purposes of economic development. Action proposed is to hold a public hearing and approve the resolution that is before you. A description pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 158-7.1, please be advised that the Nash County Board of Commissioners will conduct a public hearing at 9 a.m. or as soon thereafter as it may be heard on Monday, April the 1st, 2024 at the Nash County Administration Building located at 120 West Washington Street, Nashville, North Carolina. The purpose of the hearing is to receive public input on a pending resolution, as I said before you, allowing the county to convey a fee simple interest in real property known as 345570 Corporate Parkway, Middlesex, North Carolina. As certain, Lot 6, 10 acres more or less, or described plat entitled Minor Plat Property of Nash County, dated June 2022 by Barnett Engineering and Surveying, PC, as recorded in Plat Book 43, page 398, Nash County Registry. The proposed consideration will be for $200,000 or $20,000 per acre for the real estate. The intent of the sale is to enhance the county's tax base, future job creation, and economic development growth. This notice and contemplated public hearing will comply with the requirements of NC General Statute 158-7.1. After holding the public hearing, the Board of Commissioners intend to approve the resolution authorizing the sale of the property. Recommended action, the staff is recommending that the county commissioners will hold the public hearing and approve the resolution authorizing the sale of property to Project Bake, as we refer to it as, for the purposes of economic development. Please note, and it's been corrected with the clerk of the board, that strike in the resolution in 2 locations, shell building. This is just a strictly sale of 10 acres of land in the Middlesex Corporate Center.
All right, any questions of Mr. Hagan at this time? Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to enter a public hearing, and after I open the public hearing, you're welcome to come up and speak. But at this time, I'd call on a motion to go into public hearing on this matter.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins. Is there a second to that motion? Second. Second by Commissioner Combs. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. And for people in the audience, we are in a public hearing to hear any comments about the county's decision to possibly grant a sale of this land and stated price of $20,000 an acre to an industry that will bring jobs and investments to Nash County. So if there's someone here wishes to speak on this, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no movement, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I got 2 motions, Mr. Outlaw, Mr. Combs, and a second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion to close the public hearing, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Public hearing is now closed, and is there any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the resolution authorizing the sale of property to Project Break for the purpose of economic development.
I have a motion by Commissioner Combs. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Great sounding project. We have another public hearing. This public hearing is on conditional rezoning request CZ 240301 Stallings Road subdivision. And at this time, I'll call on our planning director, Adam Tyson, to make this presentation. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My voice is a little hoarse this morning, so please excuse that. The rezoning request before the board this morning affects 54 approximately acres of land owned by W.T. Brantley Jr. and Betty Brantley. As you can see from the aerial photograph and the zoning map on your screen, this property is located on both the north and south sides of Stallings Road. So this is Stallings Road passing through the subject property. It's also on the north side of Lake Royale Road, which is down here at the bottom of the map. These are Spring Hope zip codes in the A1 agricultural zoning district. This property is located between the Nash-Franklin County line, which is just off to the west, and the town of Spring Hope, which would be off to the east. The prospective developer, Little Bear Creek Properties LLC, has submitted this rezoning request to rezone the subject property to RA30CZ, single-family residential conditional zone, specifically for the development of what's being called the Stallings Road subdivision. Approval of the requested rezoning would impact the subject property in 3 ways. Number 1, the minimum lot area would be reduced from a required 40,000 square feet now to 30,000 square feet, which would slightly increase the potential residential density. There are more than 60 different land uses that are permitted for development under certain circumstances in the current A1 zoning district that would no longer be permitted for development under the proposed RA30 zoning designation. These include, but are not limited to, both single-wide and double-wide manufactured homes, manufactured home parks, duplexes, event and conference venues, private campgrounds, outdoor shooting ranges, kennels, demolition debris landfills, solar farms, solid waste collection and disposal sites, mining, explosives manufacturing, and sawmills. That entire list of land uses are things that are currently permitted on the property under certain circumstances that would no longer be permitted under the proposed rezoning. And of course, the subject property, because this is a conditional rezoning, could only be developed in accordance with the proposed subdivision sketch plan, which we will review now. I'll note that the map has been turned 90 degrees to the right in order to fit on the screen, so what was up on the last slide north is now to the right. So this is the northern side of Stallings Road and the southern side of Stallings Road. This sketch plan proposes the development of 56 new residential lots, 1 open space lot down here on the south side for stormwater management, and 3 new public road rights of way. And so you have a public road here, a public road on the north side as well, and then a stub road to the adjacent undeveloped property to the west here. 52 of these lots would be accessed from the proposed new interior public roads. Because of how wide the property is on the north side, there are 4 proposed lots that would have driveways directly accessible from Stallings Road. Those 4 lots are in this area of the property. All the other 52 lots would be accessed from the interior road. I've already mentioned the stub road proposed to the adjacent undeveloped property to the west for potential future connectivity of future development. If rezoned, all of these lots would have to meet or exceed a 30,000 square foot minimum lot area and a 100-foot minimum lot width dimensional requirement. The subject property does not have access to public water or sewer, so each proposed lot would be served by an on-site well and septic system. We are required by state statute to consult our comprehensive land use plan whenever considering a rezoning request. This request is consistent with our current plan, specifically because, number 1, the plan primarily designates the subject property as a residential agricultural area. You can see that in the green color in this excerpt from our future land use map from the plan. In that area, the plan recommends a minimum allowable residential lot size of 30,000 square feet, and that is consistent with the requirement of this proposed RA30 CZ zoning district. And finally, the plan recommends that rezonings that allow for greater residential density, as this one would, should prohibit the development of manufactured homes unless both public water and sewer service is available. And this RA30 CZ zoning district does prohibit the development of single or double-wide manufactured homes, and that's what the A signifies in the name RA30. We're also required to consider the reasonableness of the request and concerns about spot zoning. This request may be considered reasonable and in the public interest because, first, the request already will allow the property which already is zoned for residential development to continue to be zoned for residential use, similar to the adjacent and surrounding properties. Secondly, although the request would permit slightly smaller minimum lot areas and slightly increased residential density, is also much more restrictive in terms of the land uses that would be permitted there, and I would refer back to the list of 60 or more land uses that would no longer be allowed following the rezoning. The Technical Review Committee considered this request back on February 29th and recommended approval. The Planning Board held a public meeting on this request on March 18th, 2024. Jennifer Wood of 8793 Seven Paths Road addressed the board on behalf of herself, Charles Wood, Jeremy Wood, Autry Bissett, and Janet Bissett, all owners of neighboring properties. She spoke in opposition to the request, stating that it was not, in her opinion, in the public interest due to its incompatibility with the adjacent and surrounding rural areas. Ms. Wood further asked that if the request were to be approved, that the developer should provide a vegetated berm at least 6 feet in height adjacent to the properties owned by Mr. Autry and Janet Bissett for privacy and the protection of the livestock pastures. Ms. Wood also expressed concerns related to vehicular traffic safety along both Stallings Road and Lake Royale Road based on the new subdivision entrances, the new driveways, and previous traffic accidents in the area. She noted concerns regarding potential environmental impacts to Coker Creek, which is located to the northeast of the subject property, by pollution, runoff, and erosion. Mr. Kevin Varnell with Stocks Engineering addressed the board at that meeting in support of the request. He agreed on behalf of the applicant that the developer would provide screening consisting of either a combination of an earthen berm with planted vegetation of a species and spacing intended to reach a minimum height of 6 feet within 3 years of planting, or sufficient preserved existing vegetation where there was already adequate trees on the subject property along the immediately adjacent properties currently owned by Mr. and Mrs. Bissett. And that would be along most of this western property line here, the entire southern property line here, I believe, and here for most of it, and then the property to the north up here. With a split vote of 8-1, the planning board recommended approval of the request subject to a list of development conditions. And if you will turn to page 45 in your staff report, there are 8 development conditions listed. 6 of those are very standard for a residential conditional rezoning request. I want to call the board's attention to condition number 4. There is a very large undeveloped property to the north. There's also a pond on that property, as well as what could potentially be a buffered stream shown right here on this portion of the map. In the event that that potential stream feature is determined by the state to be exempt from the riparian buffer requirements, the planning board recommends the inclusion of condition number 4 so that the developer would reconfigure proposed street B, that's the street on the northern side of Stallings Road, to provide a stub road connection to that very large immediately adjacent undeveloped property. If the stream leaving that pond is determined to be subject to the riparian buffer, then no stub road connection would be required because of the limited amount of area that a buffer would leave for that stub road. So Stocks Engineering has agreed on behalf of the applicant to that condition so that there would be a stub road only in the event that the stream does not turn out to be one that needs to be buffered and protected per the state standards. Number 5 is the condition specifically added as a result of the planning board meeting, which describes and requires the vegetative screen consisting of an earthen berm and additional plantings to a minimum height of 6 feet. We will hold a public hearing on this request shortly to hear from the public prior to the board's decision. And before we do that, I will be glad to pause and take any questions that the board has on the staff report.
Any question from a board member for Mr. Tyson at this time? Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Combs, a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wilkins. Questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a public hearing at this time on this rezoning request of CZ 240301 Stallings Road subdivision. If there's someone here that wishes to speak for or against this item, the board would be glad to hear from you. We'd ask you to come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. morning, ma'am.
Hi. My name is Stacy Bahovsky. I live at 10383 Stallings Road in Spring Hope. I find this request unreasonable for the fact that it's reducing the lot size from 40,000 square feet to 30,000 and increasing the number of houses in the area. I've lived in this area several years and have experienced the flooding issues. And so this development will continue to hinder and cause stormwater pollution stormwater flooding issues. And so I just want you to think about that in regards to this development from increasing housing density and how that will cause all the flooding issues to continue to happen in that area.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Others that wish to speak for or against? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. I'm Jeremy Wood, 8793 Seven Paths Road. I'm speaking this morning on behalf of 5 neighboring landowners, as my wife did at the planning meeting, Mr. Autry and Janet Bissett, Charles Wood, Jennifer Wood, and myself. The concerns we had at the planning, they addressed some with the berm issues. There was a couple other issues. One was a DOT study on some of those entrances, especially on Lake Royale Road. But our big concern as far as this goes right now is still on the north side of Stallings Road. You know, they're talking about the stud road and the stream. He referred to that stream that leaves that pond. That stream doesn't leave that pond, it feeds that pond. The way that land rolls there, they haven't addressed anything with stormwater control there, which also feeds Coker Creek. So that's one of our concerns. But we also feel, in the meantime, all this happened so fast, you know, going from meeting to meeting. Mr. Bissett has been in contact with Little Bear Creek Properties in the past week. And he had proposed a land swap that would do away with a lot of that issue. He would be willing to swap some of that land in that peak between, or all of that peak between Lake Royale Road and Stallings Road for that north of Stallings, which would be a win for everybody. It would be a win for Mr. Bissett. It doesn't break up his cattle farming operation. It would be a win for the developer. He doesn't have as much infrastructure cost. And you know, our community's been special there. All the landowners and neighbors get along and work together well. And if Little Bear Creek is going to come into our neighborhood, we wish they would do the same. We wish they would talk with the neighbors. Wish they would come back to the table and talk with Mr. Bissett. Like I say, it's only been a few days since he spoke with them. And they kind of left it open, but they haven't been back in contact in a couple of days. So, but this gets pushed through so quick, I hate to push this zoning through if we could come up with something better for the neighborhood that's around it, that fits everyone. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
While you're standing there, Mr. Wood, Adam, could you point out on the map there what he's speaking about as far as the land swap, so we could understand it a little better?
Well, I haven't directly been involved in those conversations. My understanding is that Mr. Bissett has proposed to Bear Creek Properties a swap of this adjacent parcel, which Mr. Bissett owns to the east on the south side, in exchange for the northern parcel that is currently owned by the Brantleys up here.
Okay.
We had a discussion with Stocks Engineering about that last week, and I think the major drawback to that, at least from the developer's perspective at that time, was that because this property was not included in the original rezoning request, they would have to double back and proceed, you know, through the planning board in order to propose a design that develops this property instead of that property. And perhaps Stocks Engineering might have a little more detail on that when they address the board on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, I just couldn't follow exactly what was suggested there. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Thank you, sir.
Are there other people here that wish to speak for or against this item?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Danielle Sharon. I live with my grandmother. She's the property owner at 9966 Stallings Road. It's going to be the only other property that's not owned by Mr. Bizzett and his wife. I'm mainly here just to see about maybe, holding off on the zoning so that maybe Mr. Bizzett can work out something with the developer. And also, if it was to go through as it is, to propose the vegetative barrier that he has requested on the other edges of the property.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Others wish to speak for or against this item? Adam, is there someone here from the developer?
Yes.
Okay. That would be the time to come up, sir. State your name and address for the record.
Yes, good morning. Ethan Averitt, representing Stocks Engineering and the developer Little Bear Creek Properties. As Adam mentioned, I guess first thing I wanted to address is the developer is willing to add all of the landscape bufferings to work with the surrounding properties to the 6 feet height that was requested. And then also I did want to mention the environmental feature to the north that Adam discussed. That has been requested. We're hoping to get a result back, but DEQ has not been out to make a determination on that feature at this time, so we still don't know whether or not the stub to the north will be required since we haven't got a buffer determination yet. I will say, I guess, one, to address the stormwater, we have left the open space lot at the southwest corner to address stormwater before it enters back into the right-of-way. And then on the north side that's mainly wooded right now, we will obviously be required to meet Nash County stormwater requirement and to run the calculations to prove that we are not negatively impacting that property to the north with the stormwater runoff. The requests, I guess, of the land trade. So one, we did discuss a potential land swap. We actually did a sketch on the property to the east in between Lake Royale and Stallings Road. And I know that was discussed, as they mentioned last week, but no agreement was come to formally. And so at this time, we would still like to request these both be rezoned with the knowledge that Little Bear Creek Properties and the Bissetts are still currently discussing a potential trade and several other, I guess, as I hear, land acquisitions and trades. So they're still in discussion, but they would like to move forward with the proposal as it is shown currently today. And with that, any other questions that you have, I'd be glad to answer.
Questions of Ethan at this time?
So you are all still willing to keep discussing the land swap deal?
Correct, yes. The owner sent me an email on Friday saying that they want to discuss potentially acquiring the land to the east and trading, but as a one-to-one trade, I know that it's about 7 acres difference. So there was a significant land difference that lost multiple lots, but they were willing to continue to work on the property to the east and the south as well. So yes, there's still potential for land trading and swapping yes.
All right, other comments, questions? Commissioner Leggett?
I've got a question. You mentioned that the lot on the southwest corner of the property that y'all were reserving for stormwater, it looks like there's already a pond on that lot.
Right.
Are there any other stormwater features?
The stream coming into that pond would be buffered, and as of right now, the preliminary evaluation is that pond would be buffered. So the plan is actually to do an additional dry detention basin away outside of that buffer. That's where there's additional land to treat the runoff before it enters the DOT right away. So you can't use an existing buffered pond to treat stormwater since it's an existing feature that needs to be protected, but an additional dry detention basin would be proposed beside that pond to treat. But that whole lot in itself would be open space maintained by the HOA.
Wouldn't you have to have a stormwater detention pond on the north side of this?
Potentially. There is I guess, since it's mainly wooded right now, we can run, I guess, the calculations to make sure, we'll have to ensure that the northern property is not negatively impacted. And since there are some areas of, I guess, pasture land, the way the runoff calculations work, it's a potential that it could be needed, but right now it has not been designated that we need an actual physical stormwater control measure on the north side right now.
Okay. Other questions? Ethan, in the comments of one of the speakers, they asked for additional buffers, if I understood that right, that you haven't agreed to yet. Would you address that?
Yes. Can you, I guess, clarify which property boundary that would be?
I think Mr. Tyson can do that for you.
So currently, the applicant has agreed to a buffer along this western property line and this eastern property line on the south side, and then along the northernmost property line up here, which are the Bissett properties. I believe that Ms. Sharon was speaking on behalf of her grandmother, who's the property owner of this long existing single-family lot right here. Is that correct? And so she is requesting the addition of a buffer along that line. That would leave, I think, the only exterior property line not buffered would be this property, which is owned by Brantley here, and that has not been requested. So the one requested today is right here.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll speak on behalf of the developer and say, yes, we'd be willing to buffer that and/or leave. I know there's existing trees along that property line already. So either leaving the additional landscaping in place or adding that berm and buffering, the developer would be willing to grant that buffer. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Well, appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Anyone that, excuse me.
Yeah. Did you state that you were waiting for another additional environmental study?
Yes, so the preliminary investigation has been performed, but DEQ, the state comes out and does a jurisdictional determination on whether or not features are buffered and/or wetlands, and they have not made it out to the site to make that determination yet. So that is scheduled but has not been made. But that, I guess, plays into the condition of stubbing the road to the north, whether or not that would be designed and required or not. So, yes.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else here wishes to speak for or against this item? Seeing no movement, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Leggett. Second by Commissioner Combs. Questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion to close the public hearing, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. It is, public hearing is now closed, and Mr. Tyson is here to answer any other questions board members may have about this item.
And I would just add that it would be condition number 5 that would need to be amended in order to add a reference to the adjacent Shelby J. Sharon property for the vegetative screening buffer that the applicant has agreed to this morning.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Other comments or questions from board members? Pleasure to the board.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Combs?
I would make a motion that we table this rezoning request, as there's some questions as possibility of a land swap, and there's questions about the environmental impact on the northern end. I'll just make a motion that we table this motion till we see if we can resolve some of these problems. Thoughts?
Is the table to a time specific, like the next meeting?
Next meeting.
Okay. All right, I have a motion on the floor to table this to our next meeting. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion by board member?
Would that allow time, if the parties agree, for the planning board process to take place by our next meeting?
I will refer to staff to ask that question. Mr. Tyson, give
Not, it
guidance
seems it
on
would
that.
just delay that further.
Understood. Good point.
We are already past the submittal deadline for what will be on the planning board's agenda in April. And so a revised plan that includes property not within today's scope would have to go to the planning board at the earliest in May, and they could be brought before the Board of Commissioners at the first meeting in June.
I'll amend my motion then to make it first meeting in June.
All right, we have a motion amended that would delay the meeting, delay this decision for 60 days, thereabout.
First Monday in June.
First Monday in June. Is the second maker to that motion in agreement with the change?
Yes.
Okay, and the second has been agreed to. Any questions on the motion as revised? Thank you, Mr. Outlaw. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. That motion carries, and the item is tabled until the first meeting in June. Thank those that are here this morning for this item. I'm going to call for about a 8-minute recess at this time, if we could, and come back pretty soon. Call us back to order at this time. We finished up item number 9, so we'll now move to item number 10, which is the monthly tax report, and I'll call on Doris Sumner for this presentation. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. At this time, I'd like to present the monthly tax report. As you know, this report is designed to keep the board current on activities in the tax collector's office. The report is for your information only and does not require approval. However, it is recommended that you accept the report so that it will be noted in the minutes. And if you have any questions on that, I'll be glad to answer. It looks like we're keeping pace with where we were last year, so I'm going to try to keep that going.
That's a tough pace to keep up with. That's good.
It is, sir.
Any questions on the tax report? We'll accept it for the record. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Item number 11 is tax refunds.
And this month, we did not have any refunds for consideration by the board.
No refunds. Well,
No
we thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sorry to hold you all morning for your brief report there.
That's okay.
Item number 12 is Nash County's Park and Recreation Comprehensive Master Plan Award, and I'll call on Thomas at this time to make this presentation. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Nash County Parks and Recreation Department is in the process of updating its 10-year comprehensive master plan. This plan will assess the department's current conditions, define goals and objectives, and recommend strategies for achieving the desired vision for 2024 through 2034. Staff solicited qualification submittals for Parks and Recreation Planning Consultant and received 5 submittals. Those submittals were McGill Associates, Brand Setter Carroll, Susan Hatchell, Barry Dunn, and Seaman Whiteside. After reviewing the submittals, staff recommends the selection of McGill Associates to develop the comprehensive master plan for $84,320. The comprehensive master plan will be completed in 2 phases. Phase 1 will be funded with a North Carolina Department of Commerce grant and will cost $49,999. Phase 1 will include project management, inventory and analysis of existing facilities, community needs, assessment and public input. Phase 2 is being requested in the fiscal year 25 Parks and Recreation operational budget and will cost $34,321. Phase 2 will include recommendation and proposals, program implementation, and plan development. McGill Associates is a qualified design firm with a proven track record of success in developing comprehensive master plans for similar government entities. Their qualifications were evaluated on firm qualifications, reputation of firm, ability to meet deadline, location familiarity, public involvement strategy, experience conducting public meetings and gathering public input. So at this time, staff is recommending the approval of the attached proposal that's included in your packet for professional planning service for McGill Associates, subject to review and approval by the county manager and county attorney. And I will entertain any questions that the board may have.
To be sure we're clear, we'll be approving phase 1. Is that what you're asking?
We're asking to improve Phase 1 and 2. For Phase 1 would be funded with the $49.99 that's for, that was included from the grant. And Phase 2, we're requesting funds in the fiscal year '25.
I guess
So
my
the
question
total
is-
agreement, the total agreement is broken down into Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Sure, I understand that, but my question is, maybe of Ms. Wood, can we approve something that hasn't been budgeted yet?
To our contract, that would talk, if for some reason it wasn't budgeted, just the first phase would be completed.
So we can approve both sections, Section 2, Phase 2 would be subject to being approved in next year's budget?
Yes.
Okay,
Phase 2 would be subject to budget approval.
okay, all right, I understand now, thank you. Any questions of Thomas about this item? I appreciate the chance to look at all the submittals. I guess I'd just like to read stuff like that.
Okay, no problem.
But if it's no other questions, I'd entertain a motion for approval, subject to Phase 2 being in next year's budget.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Wilkins, a second by Commissioner Outlaw. Questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries, sir.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Nash County Detention Facility addition and renovation change order. I'll call on Mr. Boone at this time to make this presentation. Good morning, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gerald. Good morning, fellow commissioners. Item I have before you this morning, again, as the chairman alluded to, is change order 11 on the Nash County Detention Facility addition renovation project. You may recall the last time I spoke to the commissioners about a change order was late in 2023. And the rate of those change orders has slowed down a bit as we focused on the completion of Phase 1, movement of inmates into the new dorms over at the jail, which occurred back in mid-February. The item I have before you today, change order 11, addresses 11 items, 4 of those which have dollars attached to them. One of which addresses a time extension on the contract due to some delays that were experienced with some electrical switchgear on that first phase of the project. But total change order is in the amount of $10,197.46. If approved today, that will bring the total amount of change orders to $897,866.92, and based on our original contract award of $17,635,435, will amount to 5%, 5.1%, be a little bit more exact, on the overall contract. This will revise substantial completion on the project to August 6th of this year. And recall, we first started on this project back in late 2021. But we're well underway. You may have noticed some additional work at the jail. We're concurrently attacking Phase 2 and 3 simultaneously, trying to make up some time on the project. But these change orders, this change order is needed to keep the project moving forward. That said, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Questions of Mr. Boone on these items? Mr. Boone, the only question I have, with this large number of days, 196 days, I don't see where we got A&A fees addressed in this change order. Are we subject to having additional architect fees because of this, additional days?
Are we subject to it? It's certainly something that is a possibility, but the issue has not been raised. I have not raised the issue, and we will address that if that does become a point of conversation. At this point, that has not been discussed.
Okay. And probably shouldn't have brought it up in a public meeting then, but I am concerned that in awarding these extra days, not being able to go back and address it with the contractor. But with that said, I'm sure you'll bring it to us at the time you're ready to bring it to us.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Seeing none, entertain a motion for approval of this change order.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Northern Nash Water and Sewer District Drinking Water AIA presentation. Mr. Boone?
Yes, sir. Board members may recall, Nash County has been fortunate enough to receive 4 asset inventory and assessment grants, the abbreviation is AIA, from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, and the project in the Northern Nash Water Sewer District related to the drinking water system was the first of those 4 projects to be completed. Matt Gay and Associates was selected. We went through a professional qualifications. We issued an RFQ, had selected Matt Gay to assist us with this project. We're now to the end of that process, but part of the grant requirements includes a public presentation to the board to share with the board information that was accumulated during the work on that study. So I'd like to have Mike Tolson and Matt Gay and Associates come forward to share with you some information regarding, again, our work on that project, answer any questions you may have, and then we will put a bow on this one, and we'll focus on the remaining 3. At this point, I'm happy to introduce Mike Tolson.
He needs no introduction to some of us, but welcome, sir.
Good morning, Commissioner, and thank you, fellow members of the board. It gives me a great pleasure to be here today. Thank you to be able to bring this one to a close. Been trying to get here to do this presentation for a few months now, and just finally have been able to make all of the stars align and get here. So I appreciate it. Is there okay. So as you know, we did an assessment on the Northern Nash Water and Sewer District, just the water system. That is the large one that has just been expanded through approximately, let's see, 55 miles worth of water main. And you had an existing section of system that was in Dorches that was 3¼ miles. So in total, the entire system is around right at 60 miles worth of water mains in the system. The project was let me see if I can figure out how to work this. Okay, so the focus was on the deliverables, the focus was on the water system for that and including Dorches, and the new system had just been pretty much finished when we got started doing the field location and everything. One of the main deliverables in this project was an online GIS system that would be Esri-based so that it is accessible to all people via I'll say all people. It's accessible if you have the password protected password and login user information, but especially to the members of the Public Works Department or the Utilities Department in order to be able to see where meters and valves and hydrants and where the mains are and what sizes they are. It's been very useful to the people in the office to be able to tell people, hey, we can connect to water at this address. We've got a water line out in front of you. But those, I've got a picture of that here shortly to show you. Another deliverable was an asset management plan that included a condition score for all of the assets. A capital improvement plan, which was basically proposed projects and potential projects to consider in a 10-year schedule and how to look at those as far as what you're going to be looking at, what your condition means, and how quickly in the schedule they need to be approached. And then we did a rate study with water rate comparisons of surrounding areas so that you could sort of see a snapshot of where you stood, how you compared with other municipalities, with other local and county water utility systems, so that you could see that you were competitive with those other utilities. It's hard to see this. You guys probably have the slides in front of you, but the online portion of the map, if you see these 3 different slides, one has a picture of the hydrants, one has the mains with the sizes on them, hard to make out in any of this information, and one has where the valves are, and I don't think I have one in there with the meters on it. Maybe I do, maybe those are in that. Hard to tell in that, but it's all based on an ArcGIS online. You can get to that from an app on your phone. You can get to it from a desktop, from a login. All of that information has been shared through the entire process with the Public Utilities Department so that they could view it, kind of give us feedback the whole time. Really a good tool to use to be able to know where you have mains at, what size they are. If you have a leak or anything like that, you can go and isolate parts of the system without having to go and guess which one and look at old paper maps. It's right there in the palm of your hand. And I know that through working with the field personnel that they've added and told us, hey, you missed one here, you need to go pick this one up. because a lot of these meters, a lot of these valves get covered up through just overgrowth when the DOT comes to mows the right of way. Sometimes they'll hit one and cover it up. And it's good to have a good location on all of those things. So this is a high precision survey GPS survey of the entire system so that you know where all of the utility assets are. There's a little bit closer look, but if you look at the whole GIS that we've been working on combines both the Northern Nash system, which is here in this general area. It's got Castalia and other parts of the area that are also operated by the county. And then this is the Central Nash, and what I would consider all of that being the Central Nash, but all the phases of what we have going on. So it's a working map that we're continually adding meters and valves and everything else to, because we are also working with the county on the Central Nash water and sewer district, the water map for that. So we've been adding information the entire time. We're out there gathering meters and valves, and we'll get updated information to be able to add to it all the time. But as you look at it, it's the entire county. It's a massive system when you look at it on the scale of something like this. But on the screen, that's essentially what it looks like. You can add aerials and everything behind it, and just through the user interface, you can customize it to look the way you want it to. So another deliverable in this was an asset management plan that provided condition scores and criticality scores for what the major components in the system were. Now, as you know, the Northern Nash system is comprised of Dorches, but also has all of the new components. The overall condition score for the system would be very good, simply because of the age of the components that have just been installed. They're all we're right at 5 years old now, and they're not not experiencing any issues that we know of, that we have been told to put into the system. But, when you look at a 2019 age, you've got 25 to 30 good years left before you start looking at needing to do replacement on things like that. So that's why it gets a very good condition score. Now, the Dorches system is 3¼ miles. It's at roughly 40 years, so it is considered at the end of its usable life. But we don't necessarily know of any breaks or issues that have been caused. We don't have a lot of main breaks because it's not a heavily used system. So it's pretty fair condition, but would be on the verge of, hey, we need to consider possibly needing to do some replacements, some refurbishment somewhere along the lines as things begin to break, and you sort of pay attention to that. So for that reason alone, 95% of your system is in very, very good condition because it's brand new, essentially. And 5% of it is the Dorches system that is, at the end of its usable life. We probably need to consider, some funding of some capital improvements in that way. But the asset management plan, it looks at the condition score, and it looks at the criticality. And criticality is what happens if that one fails? Who's out without water? Are we cutting off any dentist office, any hospitals, any clinics, anything like that would need water, and we'd need to provide for it. And one of the major components in that system is how you feed the whole Northern Nash system. And it's the existing main that is 40 years old from the Dorches system that crosses under 95, which is at 40 years old and under 95 is nearly impossible to go and replace quickly or easily. So if you had an interruption in service out that way, without a well on that side to feed the system or backfeed the system on the other side of 95, you're running into a major supply issue if something were to happen to that line under 95. Not that it's going to happen, but just something to consider, something to know that that's the most critical line in the system is the one under 95 that is at 40 years old. And it's a 12-inch line, very good size, but then it ties into some brand new line that was used to feed Northern Nash system, the northern system that was put in. But that one under 95 is it's a real critical element in the system at this point. Hopefully there will be some other developments that come along, putting some wells in and everything else that would backfeed the system on the other side of 95. But at this time, that is your main feed for your system. And this is talking about a little bit about how we score, why we score, and everything like that, but pretty much what I covered. And there's your criticality. So if you look, you can't really see this from here, but this little light blue section right here is where that line comes over. And that's the only point that crosses over that feeds this, all of this system over here. And so just to show you how critical that line is to be able to feed people. Luckily, you don't have a ton of industry or anything else over here. It's residential. It would be, minimal interruption, at that point. But again, not easily fixed. It's not like you can go out and just buy those parts off the shelf at Lowe's and put them back in under 95. They kind of frown on that. So you got to look at at that being what is going to be a potential to plan for in the future. And so we put together a capital improvement plan, and the only real unit, since we don't have, we got such new information or new assets in the system, is the Dorches water system replacement. You'll see to replace everything. Oh, I don't mean to do that. Well, I've messed up now. How do I go back? Oh, well, I'll wing it. So the Dorches system, thank you. The Dorches water system replacement would push, that is to replace everything in the town of Dorches. And that's just how we budget those kinds of things. That's to replace every single stick of pipe in town. Not a very likely capital improvement plan. It's not going to fail in that phase. It's not going to work that way that the whole thing just goes and doesn't work tomorrow. But to look at it from a holistic point, hey, it's $3 million worth of line to replace in that town. And these numbers are about a year old at this point, and you all know what construction numbers are doing these days. They're all over the place. So, I mean, I would push that to be, that's probably fairly good for today, but in another year or two, you're going to need to go back and look at that and reassess those cost estimates to see if that's really what it is. So replacing bigger portions of that main where you can and can get some economies on replacing a big supply line through there would be a good idea, to take that and break it down into several smaller projects. The second project that we proposed was a valve, I say evaluation, insertion, and exercise for basically the entire system. There's always a place that could use another valve to isolate a system, to make it more isolatable, especially as you have more subdivisions coming online. You get, 20, 30 houses that could be in the middle in between two valves, and might need to be a section that needs to be isolated so that you can do some flushing and some operations on the upstream side of the system or the downstream side of the system. All that said, those are just a project to insert a hydrant here where you need new fire access or a new valve to be able to isolate parts of the system. So with all that, that's the two projects that really, normally I come into municipalities and we need 5 or 10 projects just to get things working so they need to be. Luckily, in this part of the system, you guys, it's 95% of it's almost brand new. You're not having those kinds of operability issues where you need, to go in and insert valves to replace ones that aren't working. And so the last part of the deliverable on this was the rate study with the water rate comparisons. And so we put in, and I think this one is outdated. Your rates are right here. You guys are $30 for a base fee. First 1,000 gallons is $6.55, and $6.55 increasing at 3,000 gallons, which is a very good structure and the way it was put into place. You guys are in fairly good standing with everybody around, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. You guys are purchasing some water. You're also, you're purchasing all your water, I guess, really, at this point. But you're doing well considering of the other towns or the other counties in the area that run systems like this. It's fairly right in the middle of the pack as far as what your comparison are. We run a rate study to be able to find out what we'd have to do to be able to fund your CIP. And in this case, with everything being so new, your CIP is a little bit hard to say you'll fund it through that, but that $3 million is what that target would be for that Dorches replacement. Then you've got that valve insertion that can be broken down into every year you could set aside $100,000 to put new valves in around the system just to kind of bite the elephant one bite at a time. But that's the typical approach to doing those. your future revenue projections, we kind of do that to try and show you what you'll have, what you'll be doing, and you've got a certain number of connections that are, you have 581 current users in that northern Nash section, but you've got taps that were put in as part of that project that are not yet active. Now, these numbers are probably a little outdated because this report was written last year. But it's, 525 people, you could see you would almost double the current revenue that you'd be taking in from those users if they all turned into eventual customers of the system. So with that said, those are, there's a real potential to do some recruiting inside the system to get those people who got a tap to become customers, whether they've got failing wells or whether they just did it because we were going by and the system, it was easier to get a tap in than it was to come back and get one later. Doesn't matter, those guys are potential customers that could generate revenue. And a lot of the reason for having those individual taps, those people come on, it helps with water quality, helps with turnover in the water lines. It helps keep your constituents up in chlorine and everything else because it keeps water flowing and keeps your bad and dirty water complaints from skyrocketing in the low areas that haven't been developed or in between where there's not a lot of customers on the line. So it's something to really consider, maybe incentivizing to people to say, hey, if you come in now, you'll get, this is the rate that we'll charge you for dropping a meter in the set and come in and connect. They've got their own parts that they've got to do. The customer has to hire a plumber to come out there and plumb up to it, but at the same time, maybe there's some sort of a fund that could be set up to consider assisting people that say they have a hardship or would like to do that to come in to pick up those kinds of customers that will help, bolster the system and improve water quality all over it. Let's see, I think that is pretty much the end. Very good condition. Dorch's portion of the system represents the oldest assets in the system and your highest risk. No immediate requirements to replace water assets in Dorch's because you don't have any real issues that have been rearing their heads out there. There may be a few lines, but they've been in good condition when they've been dug up, and they have had some repairs done on them. One repair doesn't mean that you replace the whole line. You want, 5 or 10 in a segment to be able to justify doing more of it. The valve insertions in the hydrants is always a good approach and always a good project that you can do and just have a small project to make a capital project each year that you go and put 1 or 2 hydrants in, 1 or 2 valves in where you've needed one or you've lost one that isn't functioning correctly and insert one. And then, the rest of it is just, reserving capital for, repairs and additional things that are going to happen in Dorch's because that's going to be your biggest liability in this section of the water system in years to come, just simply because of its age. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody's got any. Y'all probably tired of looking at me.
Question?
Yep.
All right.
Mr. Belfield?
In your study, what is the average maintenance for maintaining the water system?
So what we did when we did the rate study was we assumed a cost for cost, meaning any money that was raised running, raising rates by 1%, raising rates by 2%, 3%, that the actual system broke even at the rates of what's being charged right now, and a 2% increase could be used for investment in capital. And that's the only way we can do that in order to be able to say we're going to raise $3 million to do Dorch's. So I did not take into account the exact maintenance costs and things like that. We could dive into something like that, but that wasn't as part of the rate study in this. So I don't have a good answer for you on that. I'm sorry.
Well, if you're going to recommend increase in water usage, basically with a water system, you would want to know what your cost is so you won't be in the negative, having to spend, and you don't have the cushion there to take care of it. So that's why I asked that question.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and my response to that would be this is kind of the first step in the planning process. It helps us evaluate the condition of the system, anticipate what our needs will be over time, so that we can be proactive and not reactive. But as Mike has shared with you today, and you are well aware, most of the system is relatively new. And while the system in Dorchester has some age to it, it is aged very well. We have not had a lot of issues in the Dorchester area. But again, we want to be proactive, not reactive. So we want to be thinking about these capital projects. But one of the opportunities I'll describe that we have in front of us now with some of the funds that the county's received, the state-directed grant will be a perfect example as we're considering how to best invest those dollars. We could look at some work in the Northern Ash Water Sewer District. So we're aware of the issues that Mike has shared with you today. And part of the process, one of the challenges that we always have, certainly when we're talking about water and sewer systems, is because a lot of that infrastructure is out of sight. It's out of mind. And the public and sometimes even counties and cities and towns can kind of lose sight of that infrastructure. I mean, it is a living, breathing organism. It's just like your vehicle. You need to maintain it. Things, as they age, are going to need to be replaced. And Mike talked a little bit about that today. Valves need to be exercised, and eventually mechanical items fail, and they need to be replaced. So again, this is just the first step in the planning process. We're not recommending any increase to rates in our upcoming budget as related to capital needs, because again, the system has aged well, but we want to start the process of thinking about what are the things we need to have on our radars when moving forward to make sure the system continues to meet the in-service needs of our customers and the county in this area. And I feel like we're in great shape, but again, we need to be thinking into the future in terms of these capital projects.
Other questions? Mr. Arrington?
What kind of, what we talked about, the main under 95?
Yes, sir.
What kind of signs would we be seeing, I guess, when we know that it might need to be replaced? And did I also hear you say that we might want to reserve $100,000 a year for that?
So one of the things you certainly can do, and I have discussed with the finance director, is building a capital reserve fund, because things are going to happen that you don't anticipate. Again, it's kind of a living, breathing organism. And as things age, as I age, I start to have more issues. So we've talked about starting to build up a capital reserve fund, so we can use that purpose. But again, one of the unique opportunities we have in front of us is those grant dollars that the county has received and how we can best invest those funds to ensure the continued health of the system. As far as the main itself underneath I-95, one of the things you'd probably first start to see is water loss. We'd start to see that in the absence of just a catastrophic failure, a boom, you'd start to see, we would sell less water than we're purchasing. We're currently purchasing our water, as Mike mentioned, and I think Commissioner's aware, from the city of Rocky Mount. If we start to see our sales lagging our purchases, then we know we've got an accounting issue, if you will. So that would be one of the first signals that maybe we have a problem with the main underneath I-95. Again, in the absence of just something completely failing. But that's always a risk. And, you know, one of the things that, again, I'm sure the board is aware, we're looking at developing groundwater supply wells on the west side of I-95 so we can produce some of our own water. That would give us an additional factor of safety. With our phase 2 project, we're looking at installing another water main underneath I-95 a little bit further north on Red Oak Battleboro Road, so we're not limited to just that one crossing of I-95. So if something were to happen, we could backfeed the system, we can loop the water through the system. So that's just all a part of the planning and the operation and the maintenance of a system as large and complex as the one as we have in the Northern Ash Water Sewer District. But the more information, the better, and that's really what this process is about, is just wrapping our arms around more information so we can make informed decisions.
Other questions? Just to Mr. Boone or Mike, either one. Could we go back one slide to the rate study? That number right there for the, where is it at? I think we, right there, right. Taps, but not connected. is that a projection if they were connected, or is that the number we're currently collecting on a per monthly basis fee?
So those customers that would be captured in that row highlighted in yellow would be customers that are currently paying our tap discount fee. So they requested a tap during construction of the project, either signed up before work began or while work was underway, and they received, the incentive was we offered a discount on the tap and the meter fee. So those are property owners that requested a tap, we've installed a tap, and they have yet to connect. And again, that, as Mike indicated, that data is a little dated, but we still have a lot of customers that purchased a discount tap that have not connected, and they effectively purchased an insurance policy. If their well goes out, they would have the flexibility of either repairing their well or connecting to the county water system. And as far as the current users, that would be the first row. That number is also higher than what's reflected in that table that we currently have, because in addition to customers that purchased a tap and have since connected, we've also seen growth in the system from private development, subdivisions that have developed and have brought customers into the system. So that also helps with the financial health of the overall water sewer district.
Right. My real question is, on that 525, they're currently paying $20 a month for the most part. Is that 338,000 come from that $20 a month, or is it the difference between that and what they would be paying if they were connected at an estimated water use?
I believe that's Mike's projection. If we could gather all those customers in and they become active customers this month, what our billing would be for the month of April.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clear up. So the $20 is really not shown there?
That is not.
Okay.
Other than what would have, that's based on them paying a base fee and being a 3,500 gallon a month user.
All right, I just really wonder what that number was we were collecting on those $20.
Yeah, so that is just the potential revenue.
Gotcha.
That could be generated.
Yeah, understood. Thank you. Did you say we were also doing this on the Central Nash water system, or are going to be doing it?
It's underway.
Underway. I thought it was. Well, it's great information here. I can't imagine how valuable it is.
The mapping that Mike reflected, again, in terms of the ability, if we have a main break, to be able to find the valves, to have that for, we have staff with a lot of institutional knowledge, but those people eventually retire.
Right.
So we want to have the records that when the next person comes in, they've got access to the information at their fingertips so they can locate these assets quickly and efficiently.
All right. It's amazing what you have done with this, quite frankly. Sure is.
I've got a question. Do we know how many taps we have that's not connected into Central Nash Water District? Do you have any figure on that?
I can get that number for you. Certainly not as many as we currently have in Northern Nash. But that is, that system, it's a much older system. I say much older. It's actually still relatively new in a utility terms, but compared to Northern Ash, we've had that system a long time.
I'll just say I'm not worried about that line under 95 at all.
But we want to be prepared.
I'm just kidding with you. I remember how much trouble we had getting that casing under 95. All right. We are now on design services. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Design services for senior center expansion project, Mr. Boone.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As our Parks and Recreation Director alluded to earlier, with his project with the Parks and Rec Master Plan, we're in the very early stages of planning for the expansion of the senior center here in Nashville. And in order to begin that process, planning for that expansion, the county issued a request for qualifications in late 2023. And what we have before you today is a contract that has been drafted by Oakley Collier Associates. They are one of 7 firms that had responded to that RFQ. And based on an internal review committee, including myself, Ashley Winstead with Senior Services, and Mike Phillips in Public Utilities and Facilities, we are recommending that the county move forward with a contract with Oakley Collier Associates to help us get started on that process. We'll say, want to give Ms. Winstead kudos. She spent a lot of time checking on references for the firms that had submitted. And again, based on the feedback she received and what the committee had observed when reviewing the proposals, is why we'll bring this recommendation forward to you today. Similar to the recommendation involving the Parks and Rec Master Plan, this contract has been subdivided into 2 different phases. The initial phase will be focused on developing the conceptual plan for the expansion and developing planning level cost estimates for the expansion of the senior center. And that also, will make a point to mention that because of some of the ongoing conversation involving Nash Arts, its location being contiguous to the senior center, we are also factoring that into our planning process. But we're recommending that the manager be authorized to sign the contract with Oakley Collier to begin phase 1 of this work. So again, that's the preliminary planning, engaging with stakeholders, the seniors being served at the senior center, staff, departments that may be involved in such a move, as we're starting to have conversations about what the scope of that project may look like. And again, developing that preliminary cost estimate so we know what the order of magnitude for such a project would look like. So again, we can make an informed decision. And once we've done that, we would come back to the board, request an amendment to the contract to proceed in phase 2 if we elect to move forward. But at this point, we're asking for authorization to move forward with phase 1 of the contract to begin this planning process for that project.
Any questions?
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
It seemed like to me it would make sense to just build a new senior center rather than adding on and patching. What you got over there is probably about 60 or 70 years old.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation.
All right, sir. Other comments?
And I do that from the experience I know we've had over there at the courthouse.
My comment would be, it would be about as popular as us
to build
doing away with the courthouse.
Senior center.
Right.
Rather than adding on and patching the old part there, because it's in pretty bad shape as it is now.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Belfield. Other comments or any questions from board members?
The only thing I would say to that is part of the process would be looking at the condition of the existing building. And if we were to see something there that were particularly concerning, that is something we would want to share with the board. So again, we can make an informed decision.
Understood. That make you feel a little better, Mr. Belfield?
I still feel the same way.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, I'd entertain a motion this time to approve the $100,000 proposal that we have before us.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett and Commissioner Outlaw.
I defer to Commissioner Leggett.
All right, Commissioner Leggett, questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a light sign?
No.
Motion carries, sir. We have a 6, you voted no, Mr. Belfield. All right, we have a 6-1 vote. Thank you, Mr. Boone. Next item is item number 16. It is a resolution for North Carolina Agricultural Manufacturing and Processing Initiative Grant application, and we're looking support and a small match. Call on Susan Phelps at this time. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. The Nash County Economic Development Department is in the process of applying for an NC Agriculture Manufacturing and Processing Initiative grant through the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. The purchase of, I'll call it NCAMPI for future reference, the purpose of the NCAMPI is to fund and promote the establishment of value-added agriculture manufacturing and food processing facilities across North Carolina. NCAMPI is intended to fill existing gaps in the processing of agriculture products and create a diverse and economically competitive array of high-value added goods and products manufactured in the state from locally grown produce in the state. If awarded, the grant will assist in funding site development and capital infrastructure for Project Sprout, a value-added food processing company looking to expand in the county. The grant match is 5% of the grant award project and not to exceed $50,000 if awarded. Matching funds can include cash, fee waivers, in-kind services, donation of land, building, or assets, or provision of infrastructure. Project Sprout intends to invest $10 million in a new facility and create 25 new full-time jobs with an average wage over the county's current average of $49,952. The recommended action would be to approve the attached resolution so that we can process the grant application.
Questions on this item? Entertain a motion for approval.
Move approval.
Moved by Commissioner Belfield, second by Commissioner Combs. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion to approve the resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Item number 17, Emily Moore is Rural Downtown Economic Development Grant Matching Funds. And you intend to introduce your new employee while you have her with you this morning?
I can. I brought her with me so she could kind of watch and see how it all works. But Laney, if you want to come up here and introduce you.
Well, why don't we do that as well? I had the pleasure of meeting her walking down the hall this morning.
All right, so this is Laney, and she is our new Community Development Project Manager.
Would you state that like you stated to me? She's taking your old job?
Yes, she is my replacement.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Nice to meet all of you.
Pleased to have you on board.
All righty, so today I have a resolution for the Rural Downtown Economic Development Grant. The Nash County Grants and Intergovernmental Relations Department is in the process of applying for a Rural Downtown Economic Development Grant through the North Carolina Department of Commerce's Rural Economic Development Division. So it's a tongue twister. If awarded, the grant will assist in funding the renovation of the Nash County Senior Center. So this is the same project that Jonathan Boone had mentioned. This would be looking at construction. The grant amount is tied to job retention, up to $12,500 per job created or retained. So the maximum grant award is $850,000, and the grant does require a 5% local cash match. So if we are awarded the full amount, that match would be $42,500. So the recommendation is to approve the resolution allowing the required 5% match to the Rural Downtown Economic Development Grant.
All right, any questions on this item? And this is the one that's due at 5 o'clock today?
Yes.
Okay.
Midnight, but yes,
Midnight,
ideally by
okay.
5.
Due for you at 5 o'clock today, maybe. Any other questions? Looks like a great deal to me if we're successful anyway. Gives us a good start on this project. If there's no questions, I entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval?
Moved by Commissioner Leggett, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Airton. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Jonathan, Ben, the other one that you had was the same type grant with a match. Is that going to be totally a county match, or are we shared with any municipalities? Or have we got that far yet?
I'm sorry, could you restate the question?
I think yours that you presented in 16, had a match also. And is that match going to be a county match, or is it going to be shared with the municipality, or am I wrong that it has a match?
It wasn't a grant.
Item 16 was Susan's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm off.
Yeah, you should.
Oh, you're right, it was
Should be on
Susan.
18.
It was Susan's, not, and
And I'll be
she's
glad
gone.
to defer to Susan to answer that question.
Okay, well, Susan left. If you could just, do you know the answer, Madam Manager?
I believe those would be county funds.
I know we're working with one of our municipalities on that item. If you could just respond to that later, that's fine, I'm sorry.
I will do that.
Excuse me, Mr. Booth. Never seen you look any more puzzled, sir. You're always prepared. All right, that was item number 17. We'll go to 18, resolution to reimburse expenses related to the Nash County capital projects, and I call on Donna Wood at this time. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. So this first item I have, it's an attached resolution declaring official intent of Nash County to reimburse expenditures for construction and construction improvements to allow reimbursement of expenses that may be incurred if the county recommends moving forward with certain projects and ultimately financing the projects. It is customary for Nash County to pay costs of projects to be financed in advance and subsequently reimburse the expenditures with the financing. Reimbursable costs include engineering, site work, or other preliminary construction costs. In order to do this, the United States Treasury has a regulation that requires the approval of a resolution declaring the official intent of the county to reimburse the expenditures. The proposed projects are listed below and are included in the reimbursement resolution totaling $16,100,000.
Questions on this? This is one that we do many times in the past. Seeing none, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ayrton. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Item 19 is the 2023-2024 audit contract. Ms. Wood?
Okay. The Local Government Commission requires the governing body to approve the audit contract and engagement letter annually. This audit contract is with Thompson Price Scott Adams and Company. The cost of the audit and preparation of the annual financial statements for fiscal year 23-24 is set at $55,750.
Any questions on this item? Seeing none, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Belfield. Questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Audit contract stands approved as well. Item number 20 is the Nash County Central Single Family Rehabilitation Loan Pool 2020.
This is a request for a closeout to the Nash County Essential Single Family Rehabilitation Loan Pool for the 2020 project ordinance. It's closing out with the use of $426,457 for those programs.
Any questions on this? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well. Item number 21 is the Building Reuse First Wave Innovation Grant closeout as well.
Okay.
Ms. Wood?
Nash County was awarded $400,000 Building Reuse Program grant funds from the North Carolina Department of Commerce, Rural Infrastructure Authority, and the Rural Economic Development Division. The project associated with this grant funding is First Wave Innovations, or Synovitech. The $400,000 was fully utilized for building upfit, and the company has fulfilled its commitment of hiring and maintaining 42 new full-time positions for 6 consecutive months. And so we're requesting the closeout of this project.
Any questions from a board member? Seeing none, entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion, we approve.
Commissioner Combs made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well. Item 22, Viper Radio Project Ordinance. Ms. Wood?
Okay. This project ordinance is presented to set up the funding and expenditures to support the TDMA Viper radio upgrade for Nash County and Nash County Fire Districts. The project cost to upgrade existing radios is $685,000, including $238,875 to support costs for the Nash County Fire Districts as submitted to emergency services. Funding for this project is from the North Carolina Office of State Budget and Management, State Capital and Infrastructure Fund for fiscal year 2024. It's a project ordinance for $685,000.
Questions on this item? Entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs and Commissioner Ayrton. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Item 23 is the Building Reuse First Wave Innovation Grant closeout as well. Ms. Wood?
Make a motion, we approve.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. You're on a roll, Ms. Wood. Go ahead, 23, debris removal, another closeout ordinance.
Okay, the attached project ordinance is presented for approval to close out the stream debris removal grant project. As part of this project, the Golden Leaf Foundation funded debris removal in the Tar River. In addition to that funding, the North Carolina Division of Soil and Water Conservation, through the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, funded debris removal in Stony Creek, Tar River, Turkey Creek, and Fishing Creek. And this is the part of the grant project that we'd like to close out. We still have a debris removal project going on with Swift Creek, and that's a STRAP grant, but this is closing out those first two funding.
Any questions on this item? Seeing none, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett, second by Commissioner Ayrton. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a light sign? Motion carries as well. 24 is budget amendments. Ms. Wood?
Okay. The following budget amendments are presented for the board's consideration for fiscal year 23-24. I have 13 amendments to present. The first one is with senior services. This budget amendments to budget additional state grant funding to support the state health insurance assistance program. It's $2,800. The next item is with the health department. This budget amendments to budget grant funding from the ARPA Temporary Savings Fund to support activities authorized under the General Aid to Counties Agreement Addendum, including training, education, supplies, and contracted services. These funds will be used to meet the service requirements of the essential public health services and ensure those services are available and accessible to Nash County's population. It's a $50,000 grant. The next item is also with Health Department. This budget amendments to budget funding from U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS Bridge Access Program for COVID vaccines and treatments. These funds will be used to help maintain access to COVID-19 vaccines for uninsured and underinsured adults. It's $84,654. The next item is with Cooperative Extension Farmers Market. This budget amendment is to budget various funding sources for the completion of the kitchen upgrade at the Nash County Farmers Market. This additional funding includes various grant funding and donation to the farmers market in addition to the capital funding of $7,275. It's a total of $22,075. And with that, the project to finish up the kitchen will be a total of $29,350. The next item is also with Cooperative Extension Farmers Market. This budget amendments to budget grant funding from the DeLeon Carter Foundation to support events and programs at the farmers market through June of 2024. It's $2,000. Item number 6 is Emergency Management Services. This, our EMS, this budget amendments to budget insurance proceeds received for the total loss of a Ford Escape. These funds will be used toward the purchase of a replacement vehicle for the department. It was $6,310. The next item is with Board of Elections, Election Operations. This budget amendments to budget fund balance appropriation of $15,000 to cover additional expenses anticipated with the countywide second primary scheduled for May 14th, 2024. The 8th budget amendment is with Courthouse Facilities. This budget amendments to transfer available budget funds from the Public Facilities and Administrative Building Departments to the Courthouse Facility Department to cover anticipated shortfalls in the courthouse facilities budget for utilities and building maintenance. It's a transfer of $53,000. The next item is with Parks and Recreation. This budget amendments to budget grant funds from the North Carolina Department of Commerce, Rural Economic Development Division to cover Phase 1 of the Parks and Recreation 10-year comprehensive master plan based on the proposed agreement of $84,320 to complete all phases of the comprehensive plan. Phase 2 will cost $34,321 and is being considered as part of the fiscal year 25 requested budget. Grant funding must be obligated by December 31st, 2024. The next item is also with Parks and Recreation, Park Facilities. This budget amendment is to transfer available budget funds from the administrative budget to Parks and Recreation for anticipated shortfalls due to increased participation to cover referee and umpires for spring sports, and anticipated shortfalls in park facilities for chalk and painting for athletic fields and for spraying outfields with pre-emergent. It's a transfer of $35,000. Next item I have is with transfers. This budget amendments to budget funds transferred from the ARPA Fund for General Services, expenditures from the lost revenue available funding. These transferred funds to the general fund will then free up funding to transfer funds to the high-speed broadband fund to support Phase 4B of the high-speed internet project. It's a transfer of $3,108,538. The item number 12 is with the Sheriff's Office. This budget amendments to budget donations and contributions received for 2 $500 scholarship programs sponsored by the Sheriff's Office and Family of Fallen Deputy Jared Allison. It's a $1,000 request. And the final item I have is with asset forfeiture funds. This budget amendments to budget funding received from the federal asset forfeiture funds for the Department of Justice to be used toward the purchase and upfit of a vehicle.
All right, that's 13 budget amendments. Any questions on either of those from a commissioner? Seeing none, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on either of the 13? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign.
Thank you.
All 13 of them are approved. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Madam Manager, are you taking care of 25?
I am.
Okay, item 25 is board appointments. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. For the Nash County Agriculture Advisory Board, the term for Jeff Tyson expired the end of December, and their board is recommending that Mr. Robert Covington would serve a 3-year term through December 31st of 2026. Mr. Covington is willing, eligible, and recommended for appointment.
All right, any questions on that one? Not entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries, ma'am.
Thank you. The next one for the Nash County Agriculture Advisory Board is for Commissioner Cohn. His term also expired the end of December. Commissioner Cohn is eligible, willing, and recommended for reappointment.
Okay, any questions on that item? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Got to hurry up, y'all giving out on me here. Go ahead, ma'am.
The next is for the Board of Adjustment. The current terms for the following 3 Board of Adjustment regular members will expire on April 30th, 2024. Mr. William Parker Jr., Brandon Moore, and Rodney Hugh. Mr. Hugh is eligible, willing, and recommended for reappointment. Mr. Moore has declined to serve an additional term at this time, and Mr. Parker has passed away. The current alternate members of the Board of Adjustment will be promoted to fill these 2 regular member vacancies. The Board of Commissioners is being asked to consider the reappointment of Mr. Hugh, as well as the appointment of alternate member number 2 and alternate member number 3, each to serve a 3-year term.
That last name is Huff, H-O-U-G-H.
I'm sorry.
Rodney,
My apologies.
no problem.
All right, any questions on this one?
Yeah, William Parker Jr. has passed away. Wouldn't he be replaced on the board, what is it, the Board of Adjustment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I think I was the one that recommended him. I'll be glad to recommend a replacement, but I don't have it right today.
Why don't you explain what you're doing with the alternate member?
Right, so we've got 2 alternate members that will move into those active seats, and then we've got a note here that District 7 will be the only district left without someone representing it.
So it'll be next year.
I believe you all make appointments to this board representing all of the districts, and so I think the next appointment would need to be from District 7, is that correct?
That's my understanding. What we're doing, Mr. Belfield, is that member that has deceased, we're replacing him with an alternate member, because we keep 3 alternate members.
Yeah, I understand that, but I thought it was a number of positions there. I know that one of those would move up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I understand that.
Gotcha.
But I was talking about replacing him as a member of the Board of Adjustment, which he would naturally start
As an
at the
alternate.
bottom.
Right, but what she has indicated to us is you apparently have someone else on there from your district. She's saying that District 7, which just happens to be my district, is the only one that's not represented. So I need to find somebody to put on there so all districts will be represented.
Who's on there representing
I
my
apologize, I don't have the names of the alternates, but I will get those for you.
district? Okay.
All right, we clear? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. And then the last one is for the Transportation Advisory Committee. We have terms expiring the end of May for Commissioner Robbie Davis and Commissioner Wayne Outlaw, and we are asking the board to please consider the reappointment of these 2 commissioners.
Any questions on this item?
I didn't get what board that you,
Well, it's the MPO.
Yes,
It's the MPO.
Municipal Planning Organization.
okay.
All right, no question, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We're now on item number 26, which is commissioner comments, and I open up the floor for any comments the commissioner may have.
Just to mention, I know we have no mid-month other than a budget session, so this mid-month will be totally dedicated to this budget session.
Yes, sir.
And then depending upon how we progress with that, then May could also be a budget session.
Correct. The second meeting in May is when I will present a recommended budget to the board. It will be up to the board if you all would like to have the inside and outside presentations at that meeting as well.
I think we can make that decision in the May meeting, the regular
Okay.
meeting, but it just depends upon how the budget goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions?
Location of the budget session?
The Agriculture Center.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Any other comments from commissioners on any item? I'll do a quick update on building. A whole new system, and it took me a little while to decipher it. It's the new system that we have in place, but it's actually, once you understand it, a little easier to understand. But we did have 40 new home permits that were stick-built this month, or the month of March. We had 11 modulars permits for a total of 51 new homes. I will note that the most expensive modular permit that was issued was $447,000, so there are some very expensive modular homes going in the county. The commercial total permit fee, construction was about $2.4 million. I will note that $2 million of that was the county's permit for the next phase of the jail. And the 51 home permits were pulled by 24 different builders, so we still have a wide range of builders that are building in Nash County, which is always a good sign to hear. And the permits are distributed, again, pretty much throughout the county, majority of them being in districts 3 and 4 and 7 for the most part. And of course, I'll just remind everybody again, which I did earlier, that the appeals process ends on 4/15 for the revow. But with that said, no other comments. I'll turn it over to item number 27, which is the manager's report.
Thank you. Just want to remind the board about the Farm Bureau Legislative Breakfast this Thursday, April the 4th, at 255 North East Point Avenue in Nashville. A coffee social will begin at 8 a.m. and breakfast will be served at 8:30. The keynote speakers are Linda Loveland, Public Policy Director, and Jay Boyette, Commodities Director. And budget work session, the April 11th and 12th, that's Thursday and Friday next week, will be at the Agriculture Center. Staff will be developing that agenda for the budget work session tomorrow, and so we'll be getting that out to you hopefully midweek this week so that you can have that agenda. In the evening of April 16th at 6 p.m., we have the farmland preservation presentations at the Agriculture Center. This is being sponsored by the Voluntary Agriculture District and the Soil and Water Board of Directors to learn more about options that Nash County has for farmland preservation. And there was a request that came in about the Faith Christian Ministries 40th anniversary. And so we have a letter prepared for the board to send for your support, and I will read it to you. The Nash County Board of Commissioners is pleased to recognize and congratulate Faith Christian Ministries of Nash County for their 40th anniversary, March 1984 to March 2024. Faith Christian Ministries, a non-denominational nonprofit organization which provides food and clothing to Nash County's less fortunate residents, opened Sunday, November the 24th, 1985 in Nashville. The center was initially manned by volunteers from area churches, and according to a November 27th, 1985 newspaper article. On Tuesday, March 12th, 2024, the organization celebrated its 40th anniversary with free hot dogs and cake to show their appreciation to all of their donors and shoppers. The organization started out of a building owned by the town of Nashville next to the fire department, rent-free, and today operates the Faith Christian Ministries store located at 245 West Washington Street in Nashville. The Nash County Board of Commissioners congratulates Faith Christian Ministries and commends them for their good work and service to our Nash County community. And I have a place for each one of you board members to sign. We'll take care of that, and that is all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions of the manager on her report?
On the preservation meeting we're going to have, can we get a copy of that presentation in advance so we can kind of get familiar with that program? And does that presentation include what other counties are doing?
It does, and there will be 3 presenters that evening, so I will get with Sandy Hall.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I just want
Right.
to try to familiarize myself with it in advance of that meeting.
Yes, I will get with her and see what we can get ahead of time.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the manager report? Thank you, ma'am. We're now on item number 28, which is closed session. The closed session that we intend to have will be for attorney-client privilege, personnel matters, and economic development matters. Any item action expected out of that, sir? Anything you know of? I'm trying to think economic development. I don't think so either.
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, we don't expect any. If we do, we will certainly be in touch with the press at that time. All right, entertain a motion to go into closed session at this time after a brief recess.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs, Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. We'll recess and then reconvene in closed session. Thank you all. We did discuss the 3 items that we listed in the closed session. There were no items discussed that need a vote in public session, so at this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting for April the 1st of 2024.
So moved.
Have a motion to